On this November 11th, 2018, it's not only important to remember the armistice, this is the 100th armistice of the end of the Great War in 1918. And it's important on this day to remember how Canadians served. Here's the way 3 of them served in the Great War. Ellis Sifton was a farm boy from Wallacestown, Ontario. We learn about his service in the Great War through his letters to his sisters back home in Canada. First, he writes about training and improving his marksmanship. Then he talks about a bomb-proof job in Belgium, working behind the lines in relative safety. Then he's told he's going to go over the top at Vimy on April the 9th, 1917 with the 18th Battalion. And when he does, he confronts a machine gun nest, single-handedly knocks it out. In the process, he is killed. He receives the Victoria Cross. But we learn more about Ellis Sifton from his letters to his sisters than from his citation. How a young man from Ontario served his country in the Great War. Grace McPherson grew up in British Columbia in the early days of the 20th century. She was the first woman to have a driver's license in Vancouver, the first woman to own a car in Vancouver. When the Great War broke out, she offered her services as an ambulance driver. The Canadian Red Cross turned her down, the British Red Cross turned her down. No matter, she paid her own way to England and managed to get an audience with Sam Hughes, Canada's Minister of Militia and War. He turned her down, but shortly after he was removed from office, Grace McPherson got her wish, ultimately driving ambulance. Her first night of service was April the 9th, 1917, driving the wounded behind Vimy. That's how Grace got her wish and served her country. Samuel Sharp was born in Ontario County in the late 19th century. As a young man, he served as a lawyer in Ontario County and became an MP. But when the Great War broke out, he decided to create a battalion from Ontario County. The 116th served valiantly at Vimy and all the way to Passchendaele in 1917. But by then, what had originally been 1,160 men had been reduced to fewer than 200. Samuel Sharp returned to Canada with post-traumatic stress at the loss of so many men. And in Montreal, he's wakened one morning by a nurse, allowed to dress, and by himself, he goes to the second-floor window of the hospital, opens it, and steps out, taking his own life. He couldn't bear to go back to Ontario County to face the families from whom he had taken their sons and whose sons never returned. Sam Sharp gave everything in the service of his country.